You think a piece of trash like you gets to make the rules in my school? The principal's voice echoed through the massive oak-paneled office, his face turning a violent shade of purple as he slammed a cracked, duct-taped laptop onto the mahogany desk. Beside him, Victoria, a billionaire tech investor and the school's largest donor, let out a dry, venomous laugh. She adjusted her diamond necklace, looking down at the 16-year-old girl standing before them, like she was a stain on the Persian rug. "You are an orphan, Maya." Victoria sneered, her voice dripping with absolute disgust. "You have no parents, no money, and no future. My daughter Chloe is going to Stanford. She needs this app on her resume. You are going to sign over the source code right now, or I swear to God, I will have your scholarship revoked and throw you back into the gutter where you belong." Stop right there. Imagine being backed into a corner, completely alone, while the most powerful people in the room try to steal the one thing you poured your blood, sweat, and tears into. What would you do when everything is on the line, and the world tells you that you are nothing because you don't have money? If you are the kind of person who never backs down from a fight, who refuses to let the elite crush your spirit, I need you to go down to the comments right now and type, "I believe in karma." Say it like a prayer. Say it like a declaration of war against injustice. Type, "I believe in karma," and hit that subscribe button, because the revenge this girl is about to take is going to send chills down your spine. Let me take you back 6 months. Before this disgusting display of power, Maya's life was nothing like the privileged kids at Oakwood Academy. While they were driving luxury cars and spending their weekends at country clubs, Maya was waking up at 4 in the morning, in a cramped freezing room at the city orphanage. The radiator was always broken. The walls were peeling. But Maya had a fire inside her that the cold couldn't extinguish. She didn't have tutors or trust funds. But what she did have was an unstoppable drive, a mind that absorbed information like a sponge, and a fierce, burning desire to achieve true financial freedom. She wasn't afraid of failure. To her, failure was just data, a stepping stone to mastery. Every single night, after finishing her grueling chores, she would huddle under a thin, scratchy blanket with a flashlight, and that same cracked laptop she had literally dug out of a recycling bin behind a corporate office. She taught herself how to code from scratch. She spent thousands of hours studying algorithms, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. She possessed the ultimate hustle mindset, believing wholeheartedly that if she just put in the work, she could build a system that would generate wealth and pull her out of poverty. Her brain worked faster than anyone else's, and she poured every ounce of her passion into creating an AI-driven educational platform. It was designed to help underprivileged kids learn complex subjects for free. It was brilliant. It was revolutionary. It was her golden ticket to a better life. But Oakwood Academy was a toxic ecosystem, designed to crush anyone who didn't fit into their elite mold. And at the top of the food chain was Chloe, Victoria's daughter. Chloe was the epitome of arrogance, a girl who wore $5,000 shoes and had the intelligence of a rock. She hated Maya. She hated Maya's quiet confidence, her relentless work ethic, and most of all, she hated that a poor orphan was undeniably smarter than her. Chloe would regularly humiliate Maya in the cafeteria, intentionally knocking her lunch tray to the floor, and laughing as she told her to clean it up. "You will always be the help," Chloe would say, surrounded by her group of wealthy sycophants who clapped like trained seals. "Don't ever forget your place, street rat." But Maya never reacted. She just kept her head down, knowing that her success would be the ultimate revenge. She knew that building an empire in silence was the only way to beat them. Everything changed when the National Tech Innovation Summit announced its grand prize, a massive startup fund of $500,000, and guaranteed admission to any Ivy League university. Maya saw her chance. This was the moment she had been preparing for. She spent 3 sleepless weeks perfecting her AI platform, refining the code until it was absolutely flawless. She submitted a private demo to the school board for preliminary approval, hoping for a fair chance. That was her fatal mistake. The principal, a greedy, spineless man who worshipped Victoria's checkbook, saw the demo. He knew instantly that this app was worth millions, and he knew exactly who needed $1 million app to buy her way into Stanford. He called Victoria immediately. Together, they hatched a sickening plan. They would steal Maya's intellectual property, slap Chloe's name on it, and present it at the summit as a brilliant innovation created by the billionaire's daughter. After all, who would ever believe a penniless orphan over the most powerful family in the state? The system was rigged, and they were the ones pulling the strings. They thought it would be easy. They thought they could just intimidate a child into silence. They called her into the office, locked the door, and began the interrogation. They screamed at her, degraded her, and threatened to destroy her entire future if she didn't hand over the administrative passwords. They pushed the contract across the desk, a piece of paper that would legally transfer ownership of her life's work to Chloe. Maya stood there, her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of their immense wealth and power pressing down on her shoulders. The injustice was suffocating. The gold-plated pen slid across the polished mahogany wood, making a soft, scraping sound that felt like nails on a chalkboard. Victoria tapped her manicured fingernail against the dotted line. "Sign it," she whispered, her voice dangerously calm. "Sign it, and you get to keep your little scholarship. You get to graduate. Refuse, and I will personally make sure you are expelled by noon. I will ruin you before your life even begins. Look at this situation. Really look at it." Maya was just a kid. She didn't have a lawyer. She didn't have a family to call. She didn't have a trust fund to fall back on. She was standing in a room with two adults who had decided that her brilliance belonged to them simply because they had bigger bank accounts. The principal stood by the window, refusing to even look her in the eye. He was a coward, completely complicit in the theft of a minor's intellectual property, all for a fat donation check to the school's endowment fund. Maya looked down at the contract. The words blurred together through the hot tears forming in her eyes. This app was her ticket out. She had spent countless nights, sacrificing her sleep, sacrificing her youth, typing line after line of code. She had built a whole system from absolutely nothing. She had that raw, unbreakable entrepreneurial spirit, the kind of hustle that elite kids like Chloe could never understand because they had everything handed to them on a silver platter. Maya wanted financial freedom. She wanted to break the cycle of poverty and prove that her mind was worth something. And now, this billionaire was ripping it right out of her hands. "We don't have all day, Maya," Victoria snapped, checking her diamond-encrusted Rolex. "My driver is waiting. Do not test my patience. A girl of your background should be grateful we're even allowing you to stay at this institution." Maya's hand trembled violently as she picked up the heavy pen. It felt cold, alien. She pressed the ink to the paper. Every stroke of her signature felt like a physical betrayal to herself. She was signing away her masterpiece. Victoria snatched the paper the second the pen lifted from the desk. A triumphant, utterly evil smirk spread across her face. "Smart girl," Victoria said, folding the document and sliding it into her designer handbag. "Now, clean yourself up. You look pathetic. And remember, you breathe a word of this to anyone, and you are done." They left her standing there alone in the silent office. Maya walked out of the school gates, just as the sky broke open. A freezing torrential downpour began to wash over the city. She didn't have an umbrella. She didn't have a ride. She walked the 3 miles back to the orphanage, completely soaked to the bone. Her cheap sneakers squishing with every single step. The cold rain bit into her skin, but it was nothing compared to the burning anger expanding in her chest. It's a crushing feeling, isn't it? When you do everything right, when you work harder than anyone else in the room, when you pour your soul into your craft, only to have a giant boot step on your throat, just because they can. Let me pause the story right here for a second, because this world is absolutely full of people who want to step on your sweat and tears. There are bullies in every school, toxic bosses in every office, and arrogant elites who think their money makes them invincible. But light always conquers darkness. True grit always beats inherited privilege. Right now, if you are sitting there feeling the injustice of this moment, if you know what it's like to be pushed down but refuse to stay down, I need you to go down to the comments and type, "I believe in karma." Let it be a declaration of your own willpower. Type "I believe in karma," and make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the trap Maya is about to spring on these absolute monsters is going to give you goosebumps. Let's get back into it. Maya finally reached her tiny, damp room at the orphanage. She locked the door behind her. She stood shivering in the dark, water dripping from her hair onto the cracked linoleum floor, but she wasn't crying anymore. The tears had stopped halfway home. You see, what Victoria and the principal didn't understand about a girl like Maya is that she was a survivor. She wasn't afraid of failure. To her, hitting a massive roadblock just meant you had to pivot, you had to learn faster. You had to outsmart the opponent. She wiped her wet hands on her jeans, reached under her thin mattress, and pulled out her backup device. It was a battered, old smartphone with a shattered screen. She plugged it in, waiting in the silence for the cracked display to flicker to life. A slow, dangerous smile crept across Maya's face in the dark room. They thought they had won. They thought she was just some naive, desperate kid who would blindly hand over the keys to the kingdom without a fight. But Maya was a master programmer, and a master programmer never, ever hands over the source code without building a backdoor. Weeks ago, when she first realized how corrupt Oakwood Academy really was, she anticipated that someone might try to steal her work. She had analyzed the environment. She knew exactly how these people operated. So, she buried something deep inside the core architecture of the app. It was heavily encrypted, completely undetectable by standard security sweeps, and cleverly disguised as a routine background diagnostic protocol. It was a Trojan horse, a digital time bomb, a kill switch. She called it Project Nemesis. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, her thumbs flying across the tiny, shattered glass keyboard of her phone. She didn't just build a kill switch to delete the app. That would be too easy. That wouldn't teach them a lesson. No. Maya designed the backdoor to hijack the app's microphone and camera permissions on the host device whenever it was run in demo mode, which was the exact mode Chloe would have to use during the National Tech Innovation Summit. And even better, it was programmed to silently record, store, and automatically broadcast that data to the main server when the trigger was pulled. Maya had essentially turned her stolen app into a massive, undeniable wiretap. She looked at the blinking cursor on her screen. The command line was waiting for a single keystroke. All she had to do was wait for the perfect moment. The moment when they felt the most powerful. The moment when the whole world was watching. She typed in the activation protocol and hit enter. A small green text box popped up on the cracked screen. Nemesis Stanbu. Let them take the app. Let Chloe parade around in her $5,000 dress. Let Victoria pop the champagne. They had no idea. They had just carried a live grenade right into their own castle. Fast forward to the biggest night of the year. The National Tech Innovation Summit. This wasn't just some high school science fair. This was the major leagues. We're talking Silicon Valley venture capitalists, angel investors, and the most elite figures in the tech world, all sitting in a massive, ultra-modern auditorium. The air smelled like expensive cologne and arrogance. Down in the VIP section, sitting in plush velvet seats, were Victoria and the principal. Victoria was wearing a custom-tailored white suit, sipping sparkling water, looking like she owned the entire building. The principal was sitting next to her, literally practically drooling over the thought of the massive donation coming his way. And then, there was Chloe. She strutted onto the brilliantly lit stage, in a dress that probably cost more than Maya's entire life savings. She smiled for the flashing cameras, totally eating up the attention. She looked so incredibly smug, so completely confident in a lie she didn't even have the brainpower to understand. She tapped the microphone, cleared her throat, and started reading off the teleprompter. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so incredibly proud to introduce my life's work, Chloe announced, her voice dripping with fake humility. An artificial intelligence platform designed to change the future of education. The crowd erupted into polite, wealthy applause. But way up in the very last row of the auditorium, hidden completely in the shadows of the balcony, sat Maya. She was wearing a plain black hoodie, her hands resting quietly in her lap. She didn't look angry. She didn't look scared. She possessed that rare, undeniable charisma of someone who knows exactly what they are worth. She was someone who didn't just talk about making things right. She actually put in the work and made it happen. She wasn't afraid of the massive risk she was about to take, because she knew that true freedom, especially financial freedom, requires you to be completely fearless. She pulled out her cracked, beat-up phone. The screen was glowing faintly in the dark. The words Nemesis Standby were still blinking. Down on the stage, Chloe pressed the remote clicker to start the live demonstration. "Now, let me show you the core algorithm," Chloe said, pointing to the massive, 50-foot LED screen behind her. Maya took a slow, deep breath, and her thumb hovered over the shattered glass. "Checkmate," she whispered to herself. She pressed the button. Instantly, the giant LED screen behind Chloe glitched violently, flashing a bright, blinding red. The slick, professional interface of the app shattered into a million digital pieces. A massive error code, glowing in neon green, covered the entire display. Chloe froze, frantically clicking her remote, her perfect smile dropping into a look of absolute panic. "Just a minor technical difficulty," she stammered into the microphone, looking desperately off stage. But it wasn't a glitch. The massive, stadium-sized speakers let out a sharp screech of feedback. And then, a voice echoed through the entire auditorium. It was Victoria's voice, crystal clear, recorded directly from the host device's microphone during their little extortion meeting. "You are an orphan, Maya." The recording boomed, the cruel words bouncing off the acoustic panels. "You have no parents, no money, and no future." A collective gasp ripped through the crowd of 1,000 people. Victoria shot up from her VIP seat, her face draining of all color, looking like she had just seen a ghost. "My daughter Chloe is going to Stanford," the recording continued, amplifying Victoria's venomous tone. "She needs this app on her resume. You are going to sign over the source code right now, or I swear to God, I will have your scholarship revoked." Then, the principal's slimy, desperate voice joined in over the speakers. "Just sign it, Maya. We all know who the real power is in this room. Your brilliant little mind belongs to Oakwood Academy now." Absolute, deafening chaos erupted in the room. The investors, the media, the judges, they were all pulling out their phones, recording the meltdown live, streaming it to millions of people on the internet. Chloe was standing center stage, literally sobbing, her hands covering her face in total humiliation. The principal scrambled out of his seat and frantically ran toward the sound booth, screaming at the technicians to cut the audio. "Turn it off! Unplug it right now!" he shrieked, sweating profusely, looking completely unhinged. But they couldn't. Maya's kill switch had completely locked down the mainframe. The audio loop continued to play, exposing every single threat, every racial slur, and every piece of evidence of their massive corporate theft. Victoria was desperately trying to push her way out of the auditorium, covering her face from the flashes of the press cameras. But she didn't get far. The live stream had instantly triggered a massive red flag with the state authorities who were monitoring the summit. By the time Victoria reached the lobby, 3 police cruisers were already pulling up to the glass doors, their red and blue lights flashing in the rain. The aftermath was brutally beautiful. Within 24 hours, Victoria's tech empire went into total freefall. Investors pulled hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. Her stock price completely tanked, and she was officially indicted for extortion, fraud, and the theft of intellectual property. The principal was dragged out of Oakwood Academy, in handcuffs in front of the entire student body, crying like an absolute baby. He lost his pension, his career, and his freedom. And Chloe? Stanford publicly rescinded her acceptance, and she became the ultimate internet laughingstock, forever known as the billionaire fake who got outsmarted by a teenager. As for Maya, she walked out of that auditorium, pulled her hood up, and disappeared into the night, smiling. She still had the master code. She had the sole rights to her billion-dollar platform, and now, she had the attention of every single ethical investor in the country who wanted to back the genius who took down a titan. She didn't just win a competition. She secured her absolute financial freedom. Now, I want you to really think about this for a second. If you were in Maya's shoes, sitting in that freezing office, staring down a billionaire who could ruin your life with a snap of her fingers, would you have quietly signed the paper to save yourself? Or would you have planted that digital bomb, knowing it could blow up in your own face? Silence in the face of evil is just another form of complicity. If you chose to stand up, if you chose to fight back when the whole world told you to stay down, I need you to go down to the comments right now. Type "I believe in karma." Let them know that the underdogs are never staying quiet again. And if this story fired you up, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next video is going to blow your mind.